Hey, sleepy friends. I've been thinking about Batman a bit more than I usually do. And it's all to blame on Joshua Hayes, who does these really fantastic videos where he covers a lot of the Bat books that come out each month. He devotes a single video to a single issue, and he really goes in depth and explores them and thinks about them, and it's really enjoyable, and it's one of the great things about this connection that we can make on YouTube, where we can share our thoughts, and other people's thoughts can make you think more and just get greater pleasure out of things. He, for instance, got me to reread Batman Eternal #5 when he talked a lot about Red Robin, and he kind of increased my understanding of the character, my interest in the character, gave me a lot of great context. So I went back to this issue and reread it. I still had problems with parts of it, but I certainly noticed a lot more and got a lot more out of it. And I'm more interested in Red Robin and hope to see him developed in interesting ways, or given a good plot thread in the Batman Eternal series. An interesting thing that I really didn't pay attention to the first time is at the end, this other character shows up with apparently his monkey named Maxwell, and talks about having trained young Master Bruce. I don't know who he is. I don't know who Maxwell is. I don't know if he trained young Master Bruce. I assume Bruce Wayne, or did he train Damian Wayne? And that's kind of a example. This is off track of praising Joshua Hayes. That's kind of an example of what's interesting and difficult with Batman Eternal for me. He also caused me to sort of take a second look at this issue, the most recent issue of Batman Eternal #7, which focused on the Penguin and Catwoman, with another story thread being about Professor Pig, or Pig. I don't know. So yeah, Joshua, I just want to thank Joshua for the great videos and hope he continues doing them, and want to alert you guys to them. I'll put links to him down below. It's this in-depth discussing of things. Don't hesitate to discuss something you like in depth, because someone out there is going to be interested, and it's going to, set off some lights in their head. So it's hard to know for me where to start with this issue. But since I mentioned that character noticing that character at the end of Batman Eternal, that I didn't know who he was, on sort of rereading this Batman Eternal, Batman 7, I noticed that there were a lot of characters that I didn't really know who they were. I didn't really worry about it so much on a first read, but maybe I should know more about them. There's this henchman of the Penguin. Maybe he was in some other Penguin stories I've read and I just didn't notice, or maybe I've missed something. He has kind of these crisscross cuts all over his face. I don't know if he did before. And then there is a female character here. I assume she works with the Penguin. There's kind of this odd panel where the Penguin seems to be creeping up on her and about to stab her, and then Catwoman from behind starts talking to him. But maybe he thought she was Catwoman for a second. She's Ms. Lark. I probably should know who Ms. Lark is, but I don't. I know who Professor Pig is. I know who Catwoman is. I know who the Penguin is. I don't know who Tiger Shark is. Tiger Shark shows up. I can take a lot of these characters that I don't know, but it's interesting to me as I read Batman Eternal how many characters I don't have enough information on. I think there might have been one more character in here that I didn't quite have enough information on, but maybe Tiger Shark was the last of them. Yeah, so this is... I didn't love this issue as much as the first 4 issues, I think, but it feels like this is back on track. For one thing, we're getting more of Falcone. We're getting more of the war between the gangs, which I guess is the Penguin gang versus the Falcone gang. It's kind of funny that the Penguin seems totally totally unable to protect himself or do anything, and doesn't seem to have a good organization or anything. So it's hard for me to take him seriously. And the last time I saw him in Detective Comics, he completely lost his empire to the Emperor Penguin. He got it back at the end, but just kind of from the help of Batman, really, and a little bit of luck that the Emperor Penguin kind of burnt himself out, pushed himself too far. Oh, yeah, another character I didn't know if I should have known something more, had more significance, is this guy, Rhodes, who maybe has metal legs and who apparently sells cars, but also sets off bombs for Falcone. Although he may have met his maker at the end of this story. So yeah, that's another one. So one of the things I think I said in my vlog, but I was thinking about this even more, is how picking up Batman Eternal reminds me much more of my old days of dipping into DC every now and then. By old days, I mean maybe late 90s through most of the 2000s before the New 52, that there was always just, I would just pick up random issues, and I wasn't up on DC, and there was always this sense of just this complexity of characters and backstory that I couldn't pick up on. And the New 52 had been a big relief that way, because it felt like it was it was supposedly starting from scratch, which it didn't really do as much as it said. And clearly now in Batman Eternal, they're just going full on with this huge, rich cast, and to some extent, assuming that enough of the readers will know who all these people are to see all the connections and catch what they're doing. And I feel I'm not catching as much of it. I'm probably catching more by watching Joshua Hayes's videos. I was thinking this was a bad thing, but sort of there's also kind of a fun thing about it, and trying to learn all the characters and everything. My other thoughts about the issue was I really liked the Catwoman, and I kind of liked that she and Penguin had a relationship. I do find Penguin kind of lame, like in the sense that he doesn't seem at all a successful leader of the underworld. He seems to just fail, and fail. But he's kind of funny. And, Professor Pig is not one of my favorite characters, but I get him, and he's nice and creepy. Yeah. And Joshua mentioned the great coloring, and this does have great coloring. He loved the artwork in this issue, and I was on and off with the art throughout. I mean, there were pages that were really great, and others that got kind of confusing to me, and other times where they just seemed oddly drawn, like Catwoman there with the giant feet. So I don't know. Or like this big splash page, this big full page picture with Pig's minions attacking Batman on his motorcycle. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on there. I mean, you can kind of forgive a few pages like that, but the artwork was good and bad for me. There were, most of all, it's like when the storytelling doesn't completely work, but the storytelling was mostly good. I don't know. Let's pass on that. But the art was kind of a mixed. It was an artist with a different style in terms of comic books than you normally see. There was something extra inky, like he was painting with the ink. It was more paint, even though it was black ink, where the color isn't. It just felt painted, and there was some stiffness there from that painted feeling, but also some really cool effects. And the colorist really did a knockout job with it. Or maybe that's another thing I've been trying to explore with modern comic book art. I think some artists are doing stuff in black and white that let the colorists know what to do, that then we can't tell which things are done by the colorist and which things are really, have been led by the artist. I love his drawing or painting of the killer shark itself, the real killer shark. That's pretty amazing. So, and then there's these sort of odder pictures. I do wish Acting Commissioner Forbes, was a little more subtle in his behavior. I think I've said that before, that all of the bad guys are just too unsubtle. I mean, the Penguin being unsubtle really works, but this evil acting commissioner should do things in a subtler way, I would think, so that he's not obviously a bad guy to anyone who witnesses what he's doing. Yeah. So anyway, it's a very interesting issue. Watch Joshua Hayes' videos to get a much more cohesive set of thoughts about it. I hope there's a lot more Catwoman. I don't really care if Penguin is out of the picture soon. I guess I hear there is a lot more Catwoman, because I heard that people who are reading Batman, was it Batman 28, goes into the sort of the future of Batman Eternal, and Catwoman is running the gangs or something in Gotham. So maybe I should go look for Batman 28, or maybe I don't. Maybe I want to be surprised. Yeah, I can't think of anything more I want to say about that. Joshua also this week talked about Batman and Frankenstein, and I enjoyed this issue. He made a very good point that it literally is just filler of getting Batman from one place to another, where he could have just arrived there. You didn't really need Frankenstein. You didn't really need these kind of abominable snowmen that they eventually become friends with after fighting with. It's like just a bunch of stuff, but there is great interaction with Frankenstein and Batman, and I love this Frankenstein agent of Shade from his own series in the New 52. I just loved his character, and I loved the gonzo-ness of his own comic book, and there's something sort of gonzo of having him interacting with Batman. So I hope next issue is still a lot of Frankenstein. He may be relegated, I'm guessing, to the background as just someone helping Batman fight as we get closer, I presume, to what's going on with Damian and Talia al Ghul, as they perhaps are being resurrected. I love the appearance of this dog. I think it was the Bat Dog. I think he has another name. I was kind of sad where halfway through the comic book, Batman sends the dog back to the Bat plane, or whatever that thing is. Yeah, there it is. He says, Titus plane. Titus, that's the name of the dog. I love Titus. I would have liked to see Titus continue through on this adventure. I guess he couldn't climb down this cliff that they're climbing down, but there could have been a way if they'd wanted to bring Titus along. He's a cool visual thing, and it just adds to the kind of, there's something a little more over the edge about Batman, and even when it was just Batman and Robin, but even more so now when it's Batman and all these other, it pushes things a little further. It's a little more surreal, which has always been exemplified by Patrick Gleason's art, who did the cover, but not the interior art. But Doug Mankey, or however one says his name, does a great job in what I assume is a fill-in. If he became the permanent artist, it certainly wouldn't hurt. And one thing about I just mentioned his name and now I can't remember it. The cover artist, so it will say. One thing about Patrick Gleason is he's inconsistent. There's some brilliant work by him, and then there's some, like on the Wonder Woman issue, there was a lot of weak weaker things on it. Perhaps some poor choices he made, and perhaps some rushed artwork. So I love Patrick Gleason overall, but I also liked this Doug Mahnke artwork. And the layouts seemed reminiscent of Gleason's layouts. And I think I've just glanced at Mahnke's work on Green Lantern type of books. I haven't really looked at his stuff a whole lot. But yeah, I could read issue after issue. I could read, like a 5-issue arc of Batman and Frankenstein. That to me would be really wonderful. There's something, if those of you who've been reading a long time, you may remember Marvel 2-in-1 and Marvel Superhero Team Up. And the whole point of those issues was just to get two superheroes together, two flavors together that were perhaps an unusual mix. And there's an aspect of that to this Batman and thing. It's a at times, although it's also dealing in heavy stuff about Batman and the loss of his son, there's also at times kind of that goofy, it's just fun to mix these two flavors of heroes together. It was a lot of fun to see Batman mixing with Aquaman. And the Batman Wonder Woman should have been fun, but maybe it wasn't so fun. So yeah, it was an issue where almost nothing happened of import, just leading into something important happening the next issue. But overall, it was still a heck of a lot of fun. So yeah, I think I'm gonna try and talk about Batman Eternal every week, because this is probably not a perfect project. It won't be, and even though I don't understand everything, it's just fun to dig into it. And the weekliness, if they can keep it up even half good, the weekly factor actually for me is becoming a big plus, especially if I get to watch other people's videos about their thoughts about Batman Eternal. And so I am terribly disorganized in my dealings with my comics and my graphic novels, but I'm going to try and I'm going to make a Batman box and put all my Batman-related comics in there, and just take some more pleasure out of Batman. Might as well. It's kind of often the best of DC. Good night, everyone. Talk to you later.